Every time I review an Xbox controller, the number one question I get is either, is it wireless or why isn't it wireless? So today, for all you wire haters, I'm reviewing the ROG Raikiri II, a wireless pro controller for Xbox, PC, and the ROG Ally.
It has some pretty crazy pants features like TMR triggers and an enormous battery. It's a solid controller, but retailing at $350 Australian or $189 US, this might make it a tough sell for some. So let me explain why. Before I do that, I just got to tell you that this was sent to me for review by ASUS, but as usual, I haven't been asked to say anything about this product, and all opinions are my own. The Raikiri II is compatible with Xbox Series machines, Xbox One, Windows, and the ROG Ally. It's lighter than a genuine Xbox controller at 253 grams, which is impressive given all the additional features. Speaking of which, it has 4 additional back buttons, adjustable vibration, it has customizable lights, interchangeable sticks, and supports up to 5 unique custom profiles. Button mapping can be done on the controller, but for more granular customization, there's a companion app for Windows. Battery life is mega at up to 50 hours. This is when using the 2.4 GHz dongle with the lights and vibration turned off and with no audio. Out of interest, turning the lights on cuts the battery life in half. This will vary, of course, depending on how you have them set up, such as brightness levels. There's a 3.5mm audio jack on the bottom for connecting a headset, and the volume through this is really impressive. Again, how hard you drive your headset will affect the battery life. Wireless connectivity is handled via 2.4 GHz and Bluetooth. Using the 2.4 GHz dongle, it'll connect to Xbox Series and Xbox One. On PC and the ROG Ally, you can use either the dongle or Bluetooth, and you can plug in a USB cable and use it in wired mode with any device. Mode switching is handled on the back using a toggle. There's 2 toggles, one that selects the wireless or wired mode, and the other one selects either Xbox or PC. It's a bit of a clunky system because there's obviously a lot of combinations here, but this is ultimately a minor nitpick. Unfortunately, because it uses a 2.4 GHz connection, it can't wake the Xbox, so this is one area where the Elite controller has it beat. On PC, you get a 1000 Hz polling rate using either the dongle or in wired mode. On Xbox, using the dongle or wired, it's limited to 250 Hz. Just so you know, this is an Xbox limitation, not a limitation of this specific controller. The sticks use TMR technology, and TMR is also used in the triggers when in analog mode. The triggers can be changed from analog to short travel micro switches using a toggle on the back. All the buttons, front and rear, as well as the D-pad use micro switches too, and it has a couple of dedicated shortcut buttons for when using it with the ROG Xbox Ally. In the box, you get 2 sets of sticks, the charging dock, and a protective case that has a cable pass-through so that you can charge the controller in the case. Charging can also be done by connecting directly to the controller using the supplied 2.5mm USB-C to USB-A cable.
Unsurprisingly, the Raikiri II follows the Xbox layout, feeling very similar to an official pad. This makes it feel familiar and comfortable. The back of the grips has a light grippy surface, while the front is covered in a smooth rubber.
The rest of the controller's design is aligned with the ROG Xbox Ally, sharing similar button shapes, and on the front it has this tiny ROG Xbox pattern. Overall, it feels premium and well built. The dongle is tiny. It's USB-A, presumably because that's what's on the front of the Xbox Series machines, although this means you'll need an adapter when using it with the Ally. It fits snugly in the front of the dock, so you only need one USB port to use the dock and the dongle at the same time. The controller even has a convenient hidey hole for storing it. The dock is also small. It uses pogo pins for charging, and the controller connects easily without any mucking around to align the pins. When charging, the ROG logo changes color to indicate if it's charging or full. You'll also get a red color on the side lighting strips if you've got them active to let you know when the battery is low. The back buttons sit naturally under my middle and ring fingers. They look quite pronounced but feel surprisingly subtle in use. I usually prefer buttons that are nearly flush, but these might actually be my favorite so far. I don't need to reach for any of them, and it's easy to find the right button without thinking. It doesn't include additional shoulder buttons, which I personally prefer over having 4 back buttons, though neither approach is objectively better. The front-facing buttons have almost no travel, but are nice and snappy. They have a typical micro switch clickiness, but are fairly quiet. The bumpers are similar, but have a bit more travel. Like the G7 Pro, the button labels are almost pointless. I guess pro players don't need them, but if you swap between consoles a lot like I do, these are pretty hard to read in low lighting. The triggers in the analog mode don't have much resistance. For games that require a deft touch, like racing games, this can make them challenging to use with any kind of subtlety. So they definitely have a bit of a learning curve if you're coming from an official controller, and I would have preferred if they were firmer. Toggling between analog and microswitch mode can be done on the fly, and it works as expected. The short pull triggers don't feel quite as satisfying as they do on other controllers like the G7 Pro. A fraction more travel and a crunchier click would have made them better. Functionally though, they work fine. The TMR sticks, on the other hand, feels superb. You get a set of standard height caps and a tall set. They can be interchanged in any configuration you like and are easy to swap, so long as you're not in a dark room. The extra height is excellent for giving you a bit more control, such as aiming in an FPS or for steering in a racing game. I found them especially useful for F1 2025, which has super twitchy controls if you turn off all the assists. The D-pad has similar dimensions to an official pad, meaning it's small and, despite using microswitches, it's actually significantly quieter. The design looks like a classic cross design, but it feels more like a convex dish. Unfortunately, it doesn't let you swap the faceplate, so it kind of comes across as an afterthought. It's fine for most 2D games that rely on it, like platformers, but it isn't especially great for games that require quarter circle, half circle, or 360 motions. In other words, Street Fighter. So I wouldn't buy the Raikiri II if you get a lot of use out of the D-pad. For occasional use, it's serviceable, and I think it is better than an official Xbox controller, but a fight pad, this is not.
Now, programming buttons is a bit cumbersome because you have to hold two buttons to start the mapping process. That might sound simple enough, but with so many buttons, remembering the correct combination can be tricky.
You can create up to 5 profiles and you can cycle through them on the controller by holding the pairing button and pressing Y. Now, this is an important tip. You've got to update to the latest firmware or higher for this feature to work. The only issue with swapping profiles is that the only way to tell which one is active on the controller is via the lighting. This is problematic because if you want to keep the lights off, there's no indication of which profile is active other than performing a button check. It's also not very accessible for colorblind users. While you can set up unique colors, animations, and brightness levels per profile, there's only so much flexibility. The software is PC only, and hopefully ROG have plans to bring this to the Xbox as a native app at some point, because that's quickly becoming the standard if it isn't already. The app gives you a ton of control. You can customize stick dead zones, thresholds and response curves. You can modify trigger dead zones, run a calibration, change the intensity of the vibration in the grips, and there's a bunch of different settings for the lights. Beyond this, you can invert the sticks and you can disable the back buttons. It doesn't let you create macros and there's no turbo functionality, which is pretty standard with officially licensed Xbox controllers. Polling isn't something you have control over either. It allows for up to 1000 Hz when wired and with the dongle on PC, and in my testing there's basically nothing between them. Wired was a fraction faster, but probably not something you can feel unless you're a Shaolin monk. One setting I'd strongly recommend changing is the stick response curve. By default it says it's linear, but it has this little bump at the start that causes the sticks to feel twitchy. Way too twitchy for my liking anyway. By resetting it, you get an actual linear line and linear behavior. Now, I can't claim credit for this. It was also highlighted in Gamer Heaven's video, but I thought it was too important not to mention again here.
If you play games that mostly use the analog sticks, and I think first-person shooters is the genre where it excels the most, the Raikiri II is a great wireless Pro Pad.
The design and comfort are on point, the back buttons and the swappable sticks feel intuitive, the battery is huge, and the docking system and hard carry case are the icing on top. A few things hold it back from being an S-tier package, like the D-pad, floaty triggers, and a slightly complex button mapping process. When you're in a game though, it definitely provides an edge, and the fact that it does all this wirelessly is a boon. So, if you want a solid performing wireless Pro controller for Xbox and Windows, this is worth checking out.